Live. Good afternoon. 33 people today. We have just enough to form a Freemasonry society here. Where's your grand wizard wigs and hats? Yes, how are you guys? Checking those numbers up now. That's better. Give us a like, hit us up for shares with your friends. Let's get it retweeted out. The topic for today is force majeure in this plandemic world. And on top of force majeure, if only the French had a phrase for superior power and force. If only they had a phrase. Anyway, that point aside, the great possibility of debt jubilees, but none for me and none for you, my friends. None for me and none for you. Yes, indeed. This is what we'll be discussing today. And I have a feeling that it's going to be a very interesting economic stage that is about to kick off. And it's all going to be about the economics of debt. And let's put that in. I want to find that article by Draghi. But Mario Draghi in the Financial Times. Now, you know, people, you are talking about a control structure person when he says, we face a war against coronavirus. Everything and every time you hear the phrase, a war against terrorism, against drugs, against Islamophobia, against anti-Semitism, a war against, and then fill in the missing term. You are talking to a control structure person. They are always going to war. They are always going to war, and wars always imply loads of money, and that you must suffer because it isn't them that suffers. You must sacrifice. Think World War II. We must all sacrifice scarcity, rationing. We must sacrifice, and resources need to be diverted away. Those are resources you've created to wage this war on the boogeyman of the moment, the plandemic of coronavirus. So Draghi says we must fight this war. And what he goes on to say is also, it's part of a series of articles that he released in the Financial Times. And one of the big shocking things that is now breaking that we've spoken of before on this YouTube channel is the concept of extremely high debt levels that will be in place as we come out of this economic event, which is going to get further economic and further more perverse as a result of all the games and the plans that are being rolled out by your control structure. You're going to come to essentially a prolonged depression. This is the phrase that even Draghi is now using. The challenge we face is how to act with sufficient strength and speed to prevent the recession from morphing into a prolonged depression. Well, we already are in a prolonged depression. We've been in one since 2008. We threw everything in the kitchen sink and burned more paper and created more new paper than we've ever made. And all we have is a debt bomb waiting to blow up, which is now in the process of wanting to blow up. The loss of income incurred by the private sector and any debt raised to fill the gap must eventually be absorbed wholly or in part onto government balance sheets. Oh, how kind. So corporations' debt may well be absorbed. You see, debt will be cancelled. Debt will be bought up. Debt will be moved on to government balance sheets, which means you, the citizen, owe the government for that which a corporation needed. That is how it works. And we will proliferate and devalue your currency to make them whole. It's the proper role of the state to deploy its balance sheet. Deploy. Remember, this is war. This is how we spoke in the army. We will be deploying. Deploy your balance sheet. Note how everything gets militarized. To launch, to deploy, it's balance sheet. To protect, we're protecting citizens. They don't care an absolute smidgen about you. They're not here to protect citizens. They're here to ensure control over the corporations that they will bail out so that they can be the owner of everything, and thereby they can corral, herd, and cull the citizenry like the farm people, the farmyard helpers they think they are. And you being their unfortunate, abundant flock, too big a flock. You're eating too much grass. You're causing soil erosion. There is green event that you are the result of. We need less sheep. We need more grass. This is the situation. This is what we're being told. Overpopulation. It's the proper role of the state to deploy its balance sheet, he says. Da-da-da-da-da-da, during the First World War in Italy and Germany, da-da-da-da-da, historical reference, historical reference. The key question is not whether how the state should put its balance sheet to good use. The priority must be providing basic income for those who lose their jobs. The priority must be providing basic income for those who lose their jobs. Now, when you want to install a communist state as the Jesuit Draghi, Goldman Sachs, part of the control structure, versed actor in this role play, warden, prison warden, the one thing you need to do is you need to create dependence. You need to create people, government, help me. The pathetic who look to government only to be helped. And government is the provider. Because by securing their role as a provider, and they make nothing, remember, government makes nothing except laws, red tape, and a whole bunch of other things. They don't build roads. They don't build airports. They take your money and they spend it. And they pay themselves generously with gold-plated pensions, and they live off you like this huge festering tick in your crotch that's sucking blood from one of your thickest veins. And then, boy, do they suck, and they don't do anything of any value in there, and that wound hurts, and it scratches, and you feel the lesser for it, and they skim and skim on every level. They don't stop sucking so that they can get fat cats living off your blood, the vampires. We must protect people from losing their jobs in the first place. Okay, so we're bailing out corporations then. Oh, okay, and we're providing basic income then. Fascinating. Okay, so you're already seeing the world according to Draghi as an insider in this cabal of criminal robber barons. Unemployment subsidies and the postponement of taxes are important steps that have to be introduced. But protecting employment and productive capacity at a time of dramatic income loss requires immediate liquidity support. QE taps, the same thing. They have a smorgasbord of tools, but the one tool that always seems to come out of that box, print money. Isn't that funny? You never get to look inside the box. You're told there's all these tools, but the one that keeps coming out in their hand, the one sole tool, is proliferation. Proliferation. So several governments have already introduced welcome measures to channel liquidity to struggling businesses, while different Europeans have various financial industrial structures. Bond markets mostly for large corporates, banking systems, and in some countries, even the postal systems for everyone else. So what are they saying? While different Europeans have varying financial industrial structures, the only effective way to reach immediately into every crack of the economy is to mobilize the entire system. So bond markets, which are debt markets. So we're talking about debt creation, new debt, new everything. So everybody gets a new overdraft on top of their already stuffed overdraft as a result of the Plandemic. Isn't that great? We need to, A, kill the economy, so we lock everybody down in their homes. So unless you run a home online business, every other business is shut apart from the pharmaceutical provider, the food provider, and petrol for getting around. That's just about it. So everything else, done. Nobody travels, nobody works, no piano concerts, none whatsoever. Anyway, so companies will not draw on liquidity support simply because credit is cheap. In some cases, for example, businesses with an order backlog, their losses may be recoverable and they will be able to repay debt. Okay, nice. So some will pay and some won't. Such companies may still be able to absorb this crisis for a short period of time, he says. Either governments compensate borrowers for their expense, or those borrowers will fail and guarantee will be made by the government. So what are they saying is, if moral hazard can be contained, how do you contain moral hazard in an environment where everybody gets free more debt? Well, many will load up with it. You want to avoid that from happening, but very few will be able to absorb this economic hit. How many businesses will continue as normal and will have lost 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks of sales? How many people are going to be stuffed with cash ready to blow it on non-essential items like cars and motorcycles and things that you absolutely don't need, lawnmowers and things? Well, I expect those kind of sales will be rather low generally, unless it's food and essentials. So public debt levels will have increased. Of course it will have. In some respects, Europe is well equipped to deal. The EU is an absolute sinful cabal of people that is a layer of government on top of already significant national layers of government that hoover up new blood. We have ticks sitting on top of ticks, all reaching into the same vein. So you have an even bigger tick sitting on 3 or 4 smaller national ticks, sucking blood. They're climbing on top of each other to suck the blood out of you. And they have lobby groups from corporations that are whining and dining them for laws that entrench monopolies for big corporate structures. And who is most hit by this close down, this shutdown? The small and medium-sized businesses. They are the ones that don't have bottomless, like a bottomless coffee. They don't have bottomless overdrafts. They don't have political lobbying, and they will suffer. The speed of deterioration of private balance sheets caused by an economic shutdown that is both inevitable and desirable. It's not desirable, and it didn't need to be inevitable, but it's happened. A common cause. In the next part of Draghi's fiscal, whatever it takes may not be enough, he actually suggests debt relief. And I'm here to tell you, there is going to be debt jubilees, but none for you and for me. That's right. You might get from your banks, under the guise that we care, a stay of payment, but all that will happen is, my friend I spoke to, who has a small, medium-sized business with an overdraft, what did he hear? Well, he had the following from his bank. You cannot pay, it's okay, but I can't guarantee your credit won't be impaired by that. We will continue to accrue the normal penalties that go with non-payment and interest upon interest charges. In other words, all that will happen is all the things that typically happen if you didn't pay for 3 months. It takes them about 3 months before the lawyers are engaged. So all they're saying is all the usual things are applying. He doesn't have to pay, but if you can't and choose not to, you'll have penalties, you'll have interest upon interest and everything. And then after a certain period, they'll go through normal process. So you buy a couple of months before they call in the repo man anyway, of accumulating and compounding interest upon penalty, interest upon interest. Yeah, that's where it's come to, guys. And then we have the unemployment number that has come in. 10 million new people all claiming unemployment. Yeah. 10 million new people all claiming unemployment. Let's just check that I've got it exactly right. In other words, the numbers, here we go. US labor market is in free fall. 10 million Americans have now filed for unemployment in the past 2 weeks. The past 2 weeks. Not what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, just the past 2 weeks alone. We've lost 46 jobs for every confirmed case of COVID-19 in the US. And I would say confirmed. best guess, because you don't have a test for COVID-19, you have a test for coronavirus, which is a large category. Anyway, separate biological discussion. What does force majeure mean? Well, maybe we should just discuss this. You're going to be hearing this a lot. You can be sure your banker contracts with government and the loans that they've brought about on you will all have a force majeure phrase in it, meaning a superior force, also known as cas fortuit or casit or casas fortuitus, chance occurrence, unavoidable accident. It's a common clause in contracts that essentially frees both parties from liability or obligation when an extraordinary event or circumstance beyond the control of parties, such as a war, a strike, or riot. I think we will have those, they're coming. Crime, major crime, plague, plandemic, or an event described by the legal term act of God. Unforeseeable black swan came out of the blue, an act of God. Coincidences of all coincidences. Yep, that's where we are. Prevents one or both of the parties from fulfilling their obligations under the contract. Welcome to the term force majeure, an act of God, a black swan that saw the bank be able to escape its contract clause as a result of X, Y, and Z happening, the Plandemic. And that was also why it was critical that WHO, World Health Organization, that will probably be at the underside of this YouTube, offering to tell you all the latest fake news about COVID-19, who themselves finally recorded it as a plandemic. And as a result, this allows legal contracts globally to execute a force majeure clause. This is where we are at. And where does it end? Big names. You have Wetherspoons in the UK, everybody's favorite pub. Down at the Wetherspoons, get a dodgy pigeon burger and a greasy pint and be paid, don't pay too much for it. They borrowed up and opened a whole bunch more pubs at just the wrong time. They're pretty over leveraged. And now they come in to an environment like now. Well, they will be over indebted. They'll be doubly over indebted because let's not forget, they've got rents and they might not pay some of them, but they may have to pay those landlords back at some point. They've got loans with interest that are accruing, and they've got no income, not a cent of income. In fact, they're probably paying security guards to make sure nobody smashes the windows and tries to steal their toilet rolls or their dodgy burger patties, but who knows, or even just a drink. But they aren't going to be doing very well. So just think of this business. Well, that's how government becomes the owner of every pub in Britain. You take over a chain after a plandemic where you force shutdown and nobody gets to eat or drink for a while, and the business has debt, salaries. Can they all pay all their staff zero? I think they can't. I think they're going to have to pay something. So now you have an idea of who gets a bailout. Now this is coming right down to individual businesses. Do they pay the salaries and then pass the bill to government? Will government pick it up? How much should they pay of the salaries? Do they pay them all? Or do they pass a little bit of the knock on to the staff? Who knows? Who knows how it's all going? But all you know for sure is you're going to have incredible levels of debt. And this is the theme of this video, debt. The absolute buildup of debt post this event will be so astronomically high that we will be in reset. And there will be, and this is my big issue with other people that say, the bond is the best trade. Bond yields go down all the time. The more fear, the better the bond trade. Bonds, you're buying a debt instrument. You're buying a debt instrument. And because so much scared money is running into a debt instrument, you think you're safe. And you might have a government debt instrument. You might have a big corporate debt instrument. But it's a debt instrument in a world awash with debt. You're buying the most supplied item on the planet. And you're buying it in an environment where a full reset, which I think is inevitable, requires debt to be written off. You're buying it in an environment where we have a terrible pension scheme that had problems already long before the Plandemic, all of the lockdowns of businesses that have been buying debt to pay pensions to old people and are running out of money. You need to sack the pension system. What better way to end the pension system and introduce the UBI for the elderly, and then later the UBI for the young, and all of these things? What better way to do this than to kill the debt markets? If you reset the debt markets to zero, a company becomes healthy again. But what about the investor that has the other side of that trade? I'm holding an investment expecting interest returns, and there's a fund that's bought that instrument because it's paying yield to pensioners. You scrap company X's overburdened debt, boom, and it disappears to zero, gone. This asset disappears entirely, and so does the need to pay the interest rate. One of the most deflationary, money being destroyed, killing events. So how do you deal with a whole bunch of different problems? Debt jubilee, kill the pension system, make all the elderly ward of state, no problem. Government pensions, just like UBI for the old, and the corporations bat on, but you own them now. You do debt for equity swaps. Government will not just kill a debt. They will take ownership, my friends. They will take ownerships. They will give it. You'll become a private operator. The original shareholders and the board will become operators of the asset on behalf of government. Government will own the asset and thereby kill the debt. There you go. Job done. You used to have a house with a mortgage. Now I own your house and you can be my tenant. How about that? You like it? I like the rental flows. I'm part of the control structure. I work for the government. What you going to do? Otherwise, settle your debt. What? You don't have 3 or 4 million? Too bad. So sad. I have to throw you out then. Which one do you want? At least you stay a tenant and the rents might be affordable. Welcome to getting the goyim off the land, turning them into usury extracted tenants in their own homes, in their own land, driving on their own roads every time they pay. Every time they pay, they fart in their pants, they pay. The ozone release rule. You will pay for everything. You will pay for everything. Soon you'll ask permission to have sex with your wife. That is where it's going. And you will pay. And you will pay. Okay, so that is force majeure. That is this big debt bubble that we are being brought. And this is what's being discussed by an ex-head of the ECB. How innovative and creative he is now that he's gone. An outrider for the control structure, leaking these radical ideas of future government communism. Who'd have thought of it? Government now owns your pension, old person, after all the bonds were written off. Government now owns the company that had all the debt because you were over indebted and couldn't pay. Government now pays UBI to all the unemployed and tells them how they must comply and show up for their vaccinations, otherwise you will not get your check. That is the game. Eventually, you will not get anything if you don't comply, and it wouldn't surprise me to see that be the case as well. Good, let's have a look at some of your comments. So, a student of history, hysterical. They'll kill the debt and make us slaves to it. We are so screwed by single historical thoughts. Not quite sure what a thought is, but nice business idea. Bureau spaces with social distancing in mind. Imagine permanent social distancing. Oh yes, things are never going to be quite the same as they were. This, my friends, is a real pivot and inflection point. We are talking about history in the same way people refer to the GFC and 07, 08 and Lehman moments. And where were you when? 9/11 imploded on itself and collapsed in the ground, as did World Trade 7. Where were you when you first realized that you were under attack? Where were you when you first realized that they were ratcheting up the control structure around you? And now you see their great game of owning all the assets, absolutely all, controlling them all, and deciding who gets paid what and what you need to do for them to get given your printed up little coupons, your little postage stamps that will buy you some money, that they'll proliferate to such ridiculous a degree that they'll lose value faster than you can say it. On the debt side, there's a couple of things they'll do. They're either going to swap the game, so having been putting us on credit and charging us usury, extracting on us from money they created out of a sweep of a pen or a swish of a keyboard, now they will change the game and they will punish savers. So you got rid of all your debt. Now you'll be punished for having money in your bank account. It'll have a negative interest rate. So those that have debt get paid. They'll either switch the game into that sense, whilst ensuring cash is killed or has a two-tier value rate, as I've discussed before, or we will see wholesale debt jubilees, which is highly deflationary because money is disappearing entirely. You write off a debt, an entire asset disappears off somebody's balance sheet. That's how it works. So then they will print on a scale you have yet to even conceptualize. I've said before, it will go through 100 trillion, a quarter of a quad by the time the many years of this is over. And you may find it is virtually infinite on the basis that this debt will be disappearing, such vast quantities of it, that entire money balance sheets of asset and liability will just be blowing up. And like the molecules, like the collider machine out in Switzerland, there will be particles that will be smashed into each other and will break and disappear. And the effect will be so vast. The effect of these smashed atoms of X money disappearing into the ether will be so vast deflationary that they will print to such an extreme scale that you will have the volatility of all volatility in a major deflationary dip once this starts to occur, followed by a hyperinflationary spike. And once again, in that environment, Bitcoin will sell off, gold and silver will sell off, palladium will sell off, only to subsequently rise as everybody seeks cash and money is being destroyed on a scale that you have yet to see. Yeah, what sayest the man? Buzz Lightyear QE. Yes, indeed, Demayan. Skynet. Melbourne is the sodomite capital of Australia. There you know. Now you have it. Gypsy Tree. Where are we in the cycle? We are in the cycle and we are awaiting the next financial, more economic stage, which they will still continue to sow the Plandemic narrative in that they've created. But it's going to be far more about economics, about loss of jobs, about unemployment, about social welfare, about a whole bunch of that kind of news. At the moment, with that 10 million lost jobs, people queuing up for unemployment, gold has spiked a little bit. And there'll be many more spikes and dips. Suddenly, precious metals getting a bid. It's been a shitty week. 292 people and 101 likes. I truly thank 300 of you for coming on today. And I know you will get me the other 10 people by sharing now and hitting the like button, because you appreciate to see a familiar, friendly face that is only interested in scenario casting in a legitimate, honest way about ways that this game goes down and how maybe you can see it, predict it, as one of the key directions it's taking, and position accordingly so that you can be better off in this game. Now, what about debt owed by us? Why do I say no holiday for little you? Because debt is an incredibly useful slavery tool. Usury extraction is an incredibly useful slavery tool. It keeps you running on that treadmill, keeps you having to work. If you've got a fully paid house, fully paid car, and you do a few odds and bobs and you earn a bunch of money and you've still got a bit of money in your bank account, and you live off the interest and all of that. No one can make you run for anything. You can surf all day. You have a home. You can make your rent payment from the income that you get off your couple of rental properties. You can pay your rates and taxes and all of the odds and sods you still have to pay even when you own the home. But they don't have the pressure. They don't have you by the throat. And they like that. They like the boot on the throat. They really want to hold you by the throat, and that's the game. Familiar, friendly Francis face, says Preston. Yes, it is. Hidden Secrets of Money Part 7 is amazing. You must watch it. That whole series is excellent. I have seen it entirely. I've even seen it a couple of times. I do think Mike Maloney deserves a major shout out for a very good quality video series for bringing people up to speed with the Hidden Secrets of Money. And you should all grab it and watch it. And I totally endorse his effort, and he did an amazing job. I wouldn't even try do my own version. It could only be a very distant, less worthy second place. Lots of editing, lots of slides, lots of clarity, real quality piece of work. I have no debts. Well, that might be a bad thing, said Mr. BQQM. Nothing to be written off. 6.66 million jobless claims. That's right today. That's right. To add, always an interesting number, isn't it? Only rent. Yep, only rent to pay. Opinion about the Indian markets. Niti Bank. The Indian markets, like other markets, are going to have a second leg selling off down. The Indian currency is in dire straits trouble. It joins with the BRICS that were officially the enemy and the alternative to the dollar hegemony. The Brazilian real, which is in the toilet, the ruble that has been horribly hit, and we still expect to see in the 90s and maybe running 100. So that's the Brazil, Russia, Indian rupee, horrifically hit and in the toilet. And then we also have the S, which is the South African rand, which recently downgraded by the third and last rating agency to junk. Is currently going through 18.5. That's right, 18.5 to the dollar. So all these things are happening to the BRICS, the great alternative. They are unraveling to the mighty dollar. And we also have, let's grab it, the USD ZAR. Let's have a quick look. How stand he now? And it hit a high that was 18.65. So let's be clear. I came a visiting before I went a wandering in February to do my dollar vigilante gig. 13.8. Today, 18.65. That is a matter of months. A matter of months I have been. And that is the currency move. It's kind of what we expected, actually. We thought that currency might make our rents and other expenses cheaper while we were here. And it has. And it has indeed. And it has. So that is your BRICS currencies. Currency being killed. And certain companies being killed with it. And lockdowns means soon every major worthwhile company, you'll be able to buy assets soon, chaps, for other business. For your business very cheaply. There will be repo sales and auctions and many a thing. I'm from Canada, fell in love with South America. I want to take advantage of the currency here to buy a house over there with no debt. Canada is ridiculous, not affordable for someone in his 30s. Yes, do it. Go to Panama, go to Costa Rica, go to Chile, go to Colombia, Medellin. Colombia is quite nice, Medellin. Chile, very nice, good medical system. And the Switzerland of South America, Uruguay. Small country, but wealthy. If you could pay your mortgage off now, would you? Or wait and use capital for future cheap opportunities? So mortgages. If you currently have a debt-based mortgage on a house, expect proliferation of the currency that will make that mortgage worthless. The worst thing you can do is pay it off now. Give them time to kill the currency that it's denominated in. Listen. When one of your enemies is an idiot and about to do an idiotic thing, Don't intervene. Let him carry on. Okay? So you have an idiot for an enemy that doesn't like you and seeks to control you, but you have a substantial sum that is in his fiat currency in debt. Allow him to destroy it for you and pay it off in reduced quality currencies while you preserve yours with gold, silver, and potentially certain cryptos. That's the game. So take the full time to pay him off, because with every passing day, it becomes lesser and lesser and lesser. In this monkey upper greased pole world, the minute he stops climbing, the only way it goes is sliding down in value, down the greased pole. Yeah. Should I try buy a house? Well, a house is good for emotional and Sun Tzu Art of War, says Declan. Indeed, Declan, well done. Don't stop an idiot, an enemy doing idiotic things. Should I try to buy a house? So the answer to that is, if you need a house, buy a house. Time it, and that moment hasn't yet arrived. You need the next stage of the economic crisis. You'll have bargains now, but you're going to have bigger bargains later, where a very rude, insulting offer might be a forced acceptance. You know, a forced acceptance. People will be rushed and forced to accept. But once the hyperinflationary backlash against the fear and the deflation occurs, where everyone hides in cash and debt is disappearing, and that is deflationary as money is disappearing, what you want to do then is you want to catch that low. When it's at its absolute worst, the first time you hear of suicides jumping off a building involving bank executives and blood in the street type headlines. It's blood in the street. It's worse than the 30s. You want to feel the outside mood has never been more miserable. That's not to say it's good out there right now. Believe you me, it can get a lot worse. And that's when you want to strike like a serpent with your low-balled offer. Yo, what do you think about the housing market in the future? Will it go down to the massive printing of trillions? How will the prices behave? Down, down, down at first, deflation, seek cash. As the cure starts coming, permanent UBI, permanent, all the skullduggery, inflating back up. Grab it at the bottom. You want to buy in 2009, the equivalent thereof, which is probably 2021 or 2022, first half. Canada will give $2,000 for a maximum 4 months for everybody who lost jobs, students. What do you think about this idea? It's a terrible idea. It destroys currency. But it's socially, you see, all these things are also Care Bear. It's so socially kind for the people that have been disrupted by this terrible event. We come bearing gifts. This is the new world socialism, communism. Because what it actually means is all your money is being diluted. For me to see government give money to other people is to know that they are diluting and destroying the currency. Yep, Rami says, thank you for the BTC analysis. Everyone should go watch. Yep, we called it up. It broke up out of an HVF. You could have got it earlier and quicker and sooner and better. In the links below are joining our community. You could know what our personal favorite was, and it wasn't BTC, although BTC is up. What is your probability estimate that precious metals and crypto will see another big drop with the stock market? It will not. I don't think of it in terms of stock market. They all drop because of fear and search for cash. It's the deflation spike. It's the terror. It's the fear. All that happens is the stock market is falling because of a dash for cash and forced closures. No longer about value. It's about closed. I can't hold this position open anymore. Margin calls, forced closure of positions, and then dash for cash. We don't have enough cash. So the market is going to see a dash for cash, and all things other than cash get sold to generate cash. That's the game. And that's the deflationary component, including property. Because you either have the bank come and do a repo on you, and you sit there with lawyers' fees and penalties, and you get no equity out, or you do a quick and dirty sell to somebody who has cash. Do I think the Dow will hit 10K? I'm not overly fascinated by the Dow. The big game is currencies. The big game is debt. The equity market is almost a small fry that will be. And the danger thing about the equity market is it's going to be schizophrenic. Every time they announce some QE and major money, it will spike up, and then you want to short it until you've had the full fear play out. You're going to want to keep the equity markets to a minimum. Look, debt, I'm short. HYG, I've been short. I'm expecting, I would love a debt jubilee. Just turn HYG to zero. I've got puts on it. Please, turn it to zero. This junk debt is actually worthless. Set it to zero. I agree. I want it to happen. I've got a put that gives me the right to sell it at 87. The value I entered it short, just by its relative high 3. You could have been in this trade as well. I still have the put. It's gone down, 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 almost in a straight line. It's had a little rally on the printing the better part of 6 trillion narrative, and it will go down again in my view. So any new capital, I'm ready to go fresh shorts on HYG. Take him to the floor. Set it to zero. If I've got something that's worth zero that I can have a contract that I can be a forced seller at a higher point because I've got the puts, I'm happy. It's a great trade. So short debt. Debt jubilees could see many debts go to zero. That doesn't mean everything and all things will get debt jubilees. Certain things might, and there will be conditions. There will be conditions. There always are. They will own you. You never get off the hook. How is the US under virus attack and Congress goes to vacation party? Yeah, they've got a guaranteed paid leave. They got paid leave, essentially. Expiry date on those puts, another 2 years, my good friend. I buy puts with a long tail. They can mess around plenty. I'm keeping track of the shirts you wear. If I repeat a shirt, you will lose faith. Oh dear. I think I've got about 20 lives and then you're dead. Yo, tells you something about the virus, doesn't it? Is it possible in the future that governments or central banks innovate a technology or policy that stonewalls Bitcoin out of mainstream adoption? It could. It's unlikely that the first is going to be the last. Controlling language. Why? Skynet asks, why do they try to control the language you use to describe Wuhan? Controlling your language is controlling your brain. We actually teach in our trading program. You need to use different language. You can't say, I was unlucky, or do certain things, because you program your own brain with the words you use. Because the one person who's heard every word I've said is me and my subconscious and conscious mind. Here's everything I'm saying right here to you now. So the phraseology I use determines the feeling and the emotion. Certain things have an emotion to them. You know, Holocaust has an emotion. You've got to decide. Believe means it's something you just absolutely accept without reason. Has a certain emotion. It also blocks your mind because it's no longer something that's a mental issue. It's who you are. It's in your DNA. I believe. So stop using the word. Keep your mind open. Don't close the door to your mind. So we talk about this. So you wonder why they want to control language. Because I know that controlling language affects my rational mental senses in terms of assessing a trade. And here you see a control structure that wants to control language that you use, that provokes and prompts certain kinds of emotions. And that's why Jordan Peterson is absolutely right to push back against people controlling the language you use, because that's how they can control your mind. You start from the mouth and you work up, and it goes straight to your brain. Brian Sequele. Hi there, Francis. I'm here in South Africa. Thank you for coming on and blessing us with your insight. I would like to know, what is your take on the USD JPY and the Chinese renminbi. So the Chinese renminbi, I'm bearish, Brian. Thank you for your politely worded question. I'm bearish the renminbi. In other words, I see a great Asian crisis. This is the next, you've actually triggered me on a secondary point I wanted to mention in this live stream. So I'll go into that in a bit. But let me answer your question. USD JPY, I'm back strong on the USD JPY. In other words, I'm expecting it to go up. And you will also note that we said Brent oil will go up and the ruble will stop going up for a bit. In other words, gain some strength against the dollar. In fact, Brent has just pumped. Beautiful people. Look at this chart. $27. I'm telling you, we predicted there will be an announcement between the US, the Russians, and the Saudis. And I think something has just happened because all my alerts have fired off. I'm going to post it in my private community first because they deserve it first. News, Brent. And we called it do along. Potentially, if you were brave. It's not an easy trade to put on, and it's absolutely mooned. Here we go. Let's post it in the live stream for you all now to see. Brent crude. How interesting was that? Right while we're on live stream. Now, I bet now if you go to Twitter and you see Donald Trump, or you look at some of the news, Russia and Saudi agree, cuts in production to shore up the oil and all of fish paste. Look at that pump. That is a zoomer back to 27 all the way from 24. You've just had a $3 gap both across WTI, $28. Look at, wow, makes me proud. I actually posted a tweet and I said, I don't know what's coming, guys, but you're going to hear something from either America, Russia, or China, any two of the three, and it's going to lead to oil having a whole bunch better move to the upside. And there she blows. Wow. Now I'm regretting I didn't have a whole bunch of longs to do it, but I closed all my shorts and busy with the other trades. But look at that move. Absolutely amazing. So live stream, you actually got to see a tweet and a YouTube that we did come to fruition. The next trade is actually long on Brent. So said the man. You heard it here. You heard it first here. Let me go find it for you. So there's news, there's breaking news, obviously, in the oil, guys. And grab that and share it. And we're having a whole bunch of tweets. I've got all sorts of alerts. We're up to $32 on it, the fastest that you've ever seen. Fastest you've ever seen. Let's just put it out there. We wish. Market Sniper predicted such things. So that's great. It's a great turnaround for the oil business and, of course, certain stocks. We also pointed out. That means there's been some big developments in the energy space, guys. Big developments and news. Who got the scoop? What's the link? Share it in the comments. Some folk would have been nasty burnt. There's some burnt shorts out there. I wonder if our friends Raul and the Santiago AU fund folk got out in time and had their stops singed. I'm just wondering. So that's a slight aside to our debt moratorium topics, guys. What else do you think? Do you think there's going to be a debt jubilee? What do you think? And who's going to get the Jubilee bit? Who's going to be partying like no tomorrow when their debts get written off? Who is going to be the winner? The indebted corpse and government, perhaps? Anyone on that one? Anybody say that? We hope. What do you guys say? Let's have a look. Bet Jubilee. What do you say? Some are going to get their debt relieved. Let's have a look. $10 million barrels to be cut back. It would be great to forgive the poor people's debt, but the world doesn't care for the poor people, I'm afraid, Mr. XX. Very kind thought, but most inappropriate as a control structure. You'll never make it as a control structure. Just not psychopathic enough, I'm afraid. So someone spoke with President Putin of Russia. I expect that there will be a cutting back approximately of 10 billion barrels. BTC about to break out. How's the cryptos been affected by this development? Is it going to be positive? Alert on Euro Ruble. That's a lot of alerts are popping on my radar because we do use a lot of them. Real fight footage, says somebody. They could let the Fed buy all the debt and end the Fed. Well, I think the Fed seems to be folding into the government. The Fed seems to be folding into the government a little bit. I think they're sort of swallowing it up. It's deeply unpopular. They'll keep government and it'll be more communist. Let's see if this has affected Bitcoin. I'll give you a crypto update. Oops, yeah, the cryptos like it. The crypto like it. The crypto like it. So internally, we've been discussing the potential pop on cryptos and positioning that for our lovely people. Share the link again with our premium guys. We're getting further upside on that. And you might find that you're getting a bit of love on the crypto front. So there's been some developments in the market. How fantastic that this all happened. It was so kind of it all to happen as we were sitting here. We've got 326 votes. All of you guys, you're supposed to be on lockdown. We had 1,000 last time. You guys are all getting jobs again. I like it when you're unemployed and staying at home. Oh, I know what's happened. We're doing this through the Crypto Sniper channel. I did it through the Crypto Sniper channel. I forgot to do it through the Market Sniper channel. That's why I needed to tell you about Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's part of the reason why less folk would be on board. It doesn't have as many subscribers. So, yep, that's force majeure. It should have actually been on the Market Sniper channel. It's very confusing. I'm just far too dyslexic, autistic to actually get these things right most of the time. It's very hit and miss. My last video I uploaded was actually in the crypto realm, and so I went live without checking. But that's okay. It's nice to check in with my crypto peeps. Many of the same people are actually on both. I suggest that because if you know what's going on in the traditional world, you often get an insight into what's going on in the crypto world. Okay, good. That's a couple of last questions, and then I'm going to let you go. Is it still a good time to buy oil, please? Broadly, you should have been along when we did the YouTube. You don't chase a spike like that. No, sir. The answer is you don't chase a spike like that, not for love nor money. Even though it may go higher, the real action has happened. You need it to be before the news. The game is always being before the game. You might notice a lot of the things we say actually are before the actual events actually occur. That doesn't mean we're always right. We're not. We're regularly badly wrong. But the point is, for it to be worthwhile, it needs to happen before. No point chasing. Most people are chasers. Most people are dogs chasing cars. When it moves, they run after it. When it stops, they don't know what to do with it. They look at it and they're confused. And then when it moves, they run. Most people are like that. Momentum chasers. That's it. You've got to avoid. Doing that. You've got to do some research and be ahead of the game. You need to be half a step before. You needed to be long oil. And I had the option. And to be honest, I got a lot of trades on at the go. And I thought, no, it's not particularly of interest to me. It's also not HVF structure. So it could just be a spike. Could be just a slow move that ties up a lot of margin. Could have just trended really slow up and down and been a bit iffy. And I didn't really feel like being in an emotional one. But it's been news driven. In this case, and there was always that chance that it would be. So now it's a bit of a sad miss, but we make, we get a lot of calls like this, and we're in some of them. We're not in every one. The money has you in a good mood right now. You can't stop giggling. Yeah, we like making money. We like it when things we say happen. So the ruble down. So we saw it on the ruble, we saw it in the CAD, and we saw it in the oil. Technically, and this is a transferable skill, guys. You could do this too. You could have been in those trades. I was long the USD ruble, long the USD CAD, and short oil. I closed the shorts and I closed those other two longs, and it saved me money. I could have swung the whole way. You don't have to. You don't have to. I don't want to be long I don't want to be short the USD ruble, because that thing can pivot straight away. We're in a macro loss of value for the ruble. It's going to come back again, in truth. And that probably means oil will be coming back down again. So we never said it's the absolute bottom. What we said is there's going to be an up move coming in oil. You can't say for how long it'll be. Okay, how much does the premium cost? Go check it out. The totally transferable skill. Nobody's a genius here. It's easy, simple. You can just have to keep showing up and practicing and being in our multitude webinars. We do live assessments of markets, not just me. We'll make other friends, presenters that are highly trained by me, and some great guys that are even in the comments here on the live stream. And you can interact and share ideas, get your trades, and move forward on that. And wow, what a difference it makes. I mean, guys are making money in lockdown when everyone else is not making money. We've got trading guys that are doubled their accounts, made good advances, and some that have just started their journey and are maybe just flat, but learning. And it's all good. In a year's time, there won't be newbies in terms of HVF method. And it's something that starts paying you very quickly if you do it and implement it in a disciplined and correct way. And all of those things are possible. Now we will see a new higher low, he says, access denied. XRP is a good buy. Well, I think all the cryptos will be looking quite nice now. Bitcoin's up a little bit. I mean, it's not shooting the lights out. The first break was the better break. This is a little probe up. I'll have a look at XRP, seeing as you asked politely. Manners can get you a long, long way, you know that. And lack of manners, I give a short thrift to. So I appreciate that everyone's so well behaved. There's no one posting porn channel links and spamming, and we will just chuck you out like a nasty, nasty, smelly sewer rat. So again, XRP, moderate. It's not too interesting. It's not too interesting. It hasn't really done much more than any of the others. But they're all in a little bit of structure for a bit more upside. So there's going to be there's going to be a little more love coming the crypto way for a little bit. By the way, non-farm payrolls tomorrow. You want to decide whether you want to spend time with us and be in a community one day. You can make a small payment of $195, and you can attend tomorrow's crypto session for an hour and a half and our traditional market session for an hour and a half and find out what we're all about. I think cryptos will actually ease a little bit. It might even just ease a little bit back. A little bit of easing back is probable, but the more medium term, there's an up move in the books for it. but it's not just streaker, not like you've just seen in the oil that I've shared with you. Okay, I think that's me largely done. Watch out for the debt and seeing how it gets behaved. You might not get the relief. Others or corporations may well do, but they'll take a board member. They'll have a transgender board member, 50% female. They'll do all sorts of things they'll have Ladies' Week. They'll do all sorts of new wave things. If you just look at this World Economic Forum strategic document, you'll find out every single place, every single thing they're going to take us down. Eventually, till you're eating crushed insects and being given 38 grams of protein a week from a lab and 56 grams of carbohydrate. Go and look at this template here. You may have to give a spam email address, otherwise they won't let you register. Go and have a look at LGBTI and travel and places in this link here. Let me share it with you. Here are your masters, and this is where they're taking you. Go learn up. Go learn up of their nasty little agenda. Intelligence WEF. Okay, good people. Thanks for popping onto the Crypto Sniper Forum. Great to be in touch with you again. As I say, transferable skill. You could have been in that Brent long. You could have been in the USD ruble short if you wanted to. I wouldn't. Against the macro HVF. If you were with us, you wouldn't be. You can be a better trader if you want it, and you could make out like a banshee during this period, because here's the time for the big market moves. And at the moment, they're going to be coming thick and fast. Love you, love you, love you. Have a great time. Enjoy your evening. And I'm also thinking at some point we'll put up our merchandise link on the Crypto Sniper area, and you can grab it. And as I say, come and see us for both traditional markets, half an hour break after the first hour and a half, and grab an afternoon session of crypto. And we'll do it again. Okay. See you all later. Thanks for watching. And share this out. Get as many people awake to the Plandemic and the force majeure. Bye-bye.